How would it have been beautiful if other states are adopting the same?
Either we are linking them to markets, we are linking them to opportunities, and we are trying to let people see agriculture in another dimension, not as what they think it was before. When you want to solve farmers' problem, ask them what is the challenges.
Do you know how much I spent?
That's a great question, and that is what we are doing at Voice of the Farmer. We know when it comes to telling farmer stories. I have a belief about saying if we are not seen or heard, nobody's going to patronize you. That is just it. It is what we need to do.
Stories shape perception, and perception shapes power. Welcome to the Grow Podcast. I am Deborah Dairo, and today we are asking a powerful question. Who tells the farmer's story? Farmers feed nations and sustain economies, yet too often they are spoken about, not spoken with, and the way their stories are told influences funding, policy, market access, and public perception. Joining me today is Afeez Olumide, founder of the Voice of the Farmers, a platform amplifying farmers-led perspectives and bridging the gap between farmers, stakeholders, and wider public. Afeez, welcome to the Grow Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I am super excited to have you. I have seen you in one or two agri conferences, and I told myself, the Voice of the Farmers really must be on the Grow Podcast.
I'm here.
Yes, I think I should cheers to that. Yeah, tell me, what is the Voice of the Farmers?
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate the fact that, yes, I'm here and just to share our story briefly. When you say Voice of the Farmer, as the name implies, we speak for farmers. We see how can we tell their story to amplify their challenges, their success story, their triumph, and also link them to opportunities. The final part of it is just that, okay, we are not just telling their stories alone.
Mm-hmm.
Either we are linking them to markets, we are linking them to opportunities, and we are trying to let people see agriculture in another dimension, not as what they think it was before.
Beautiful. Now, speaking of farmer's story, the theme of this conversation is who tells the farmer's story. And I'm very curious, not because I am a farmer, but because I have been in agriculture conferences, and I've seen a lot of policy talk, market talk, even the challenges the farmers are facing. But here comes the question: farmers are being talked about. Are they spoken to? Are they allowed to speak? Do you think that they are allowed to speak?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. It's something that I really wanted to talk about. When you're talking about who is telling the farmer stories, trust me, people like us are telling the stories, and I would say farmers are also telling the stories themselves as well too, because the narrative is really changing, not as it used to be before. You said you're always in the conferences, the room whereby they talk about farmers. It's just saddened my heart that when you have conferences that we call farmers conferences, people we have in that space are office farmers. Yes, not the farmers that are on the farm tilling the land, that are growing the food that we eat. No, so many conferences that we have. They did one recently in Abuja, where they called, I think, a youth dialogue or something. But I know, yes, there are some farmers there. But when they are talking about the smallholder farmers, some of the conferences that we are doing in our country now, we are not involving them in it. And it's just like Yoruba did. I would say, you cannot scratch my body like me we get the body.
True.
That is it. So the farmers are the one that knows where the challenges are. They are the one that know the pain point where the shoe pinches them. So they are supposed to be given the chance. And even if they were given the chance, let's say there's a conference and you invited few farmers there, trust me, hardly you see them allowing them to talk. Because that's where you start saying they might not hear the English. It's not about the language now. I always tell people that if you are just speaking English and you are not speaking farmers' language, you are just deceiving yourself. There is a language they call farmers, not the local language that we know, maybe Yoruba or Hausa. There's something we call farmers' language that when you speak that language, farmers will understand that this is what you are saying. So then we need to change that narrative and see how we can always involve farmers in anything we are doing when it comes to them. So people are speaking for farmers, but they are not speaking it rightly.
I see where you're coming from. as a farmer. Wow, that feels
Yes, it's something that you need to be proud of. Yes, it is.
amazing.
It is.
Well, maybe because I really haven't addressed myself as a farmer. So
Maybe we should change your name to Farmer Deborah now.
So saying it feels somehow like, true. I'm
awesome.
actually entering the reality.
Yes.
I am a farmer. And that's so beautiful to know. Anyways, but what do you think when narratives are taken without the farmer's perspective? You've said something about conversations where farmers are not even on the table to talk about these things. Do they come to face challenges that we don't get to see? They don't. The policymakers, these stakeholders, as we call them, have conversations in conferences, but the farmers' perspectives are not there. What happens when there is no farmers' perspective in narratives?
And I think what happened is that one, the solution we are looking for is not going to be sustainable, because the person that is affected by that challenges are not there. You might give me money at the moment, and my problem is not money. We will say everything is money, but sometimes the solution to problems are not money. When you want to solve farmers' problem, ask them what is the challenges. What do you want? They will be the one to say, okay, this is what we want. You might be thinking the solution to the problem is fertilizer, and so many farmers might have access to that. Maybe what they want is access to market. Now we are saying post-harvest loss. The major challenge that is causing post-harvest loss because our farmers don't have access to market. And I will say a very big thank you to Lagos State government, because they are doing a lot of things to that when they are talking about the middle market, the middle level, and even the bigger one as well too. So I think Lagos State government is doing a lot. So they are trying to provide a solution to that. And often Lagos State government will also always have conversation with farmers. I can say that categorically. LSAD, that is Lagos State Agricultural Development Authority, they will always have conversation with farmers, bring them to Agege. At some point, they will even go to the farmers on the field. That is what the station officers, they do. Ask them what is the question. When you feel what they are feeling, you are not just a policy maker just for policy's sake and saying, do policies that is going to affect these farmers positively. Ask them what is the question. So if so many things are done without carrying the person that owns the problem along, trust me, we are not looking about sustainability at all. It is just something that will just happen at the moment, and in the next few years, they will go back to the problem again.
That leaves me wondering the benefits the farmers are enjoying through Lagos State. How would it have been beautiful if other states are adopting the same?
Yes, I've been to several states, not all, but few. I've been to Ekiti, I've been to Oyo State, I've been to Ogun State. I'm not saying other states are not doing something. I think, let me say, last 6 months, they did a conference. Will I call it conference, or let me say a dialogue session within the steering committee about ADA, that is Agricultural Development Authority. So they brought so many people from Ogun State, Ekiti, all of them, they came together. And trust me, Lagos State was acknowledged to be the first. Because they are just doing what they are supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because that is it. And these are people that are closer to the farmers to know what is the challenge of the farmers. So I feel if other states can also emulate this, it's really going to help. Even if they are not doing it before or they are doing it, I think they need to emulate what Lagos State government is doing. That is the AD. Lagos State have a particular section that, this is Agricultural Development Authority that is majorly for farmers, extension services. You are talking about research and institute development. They do a lot of things like that. So I feel other states that is watching this video, please, you need to emulate what Lagos State is doing when it comes to coming to farmers level. They speak their language. I can say that.
And that leads me to the question, how can storytelling be a strategic tool for the farmers to gain the attention of these people, the government, policymakers, even international bodies?
That's a great question, and that is what we are doing at Voice of the Farmer. We know when it comes to telling farmer stories. I said it earlier that we are not just telling their stories. Farmers have started telling their stories as well, but probably you doing something that you know how to do best differs from someone that is just saying, let me just do this thing. But notwithstanding, we are giving credit to farmers as well, so that they are not keeping quiet at the moment. Because I have a belief about saying, if we are not seen or heard, nobody is going to patronize you. That is just it. If you are selling the product and nobody is seeing it, nobody is hearing about it, no one is going to patronize you.
True.
So farmers are really doing a lot when it comes to storytelling now. They might not be getting it right yet, but I feel, now, if I don't know your problem, how will I solve the problem? I can't solve the problem I don't know. And that is why storytelling is very, very important. And I want to acknowledge Lagos State government again about this. Let me say 2-3 years ago, it was even a joke. They just called me, Olumide, please, we have a challenge. Can you come and help us do this something? I just went there and I did an interview with them. What are the challenges? What are this? What are that? And fortunately for me, the video got to the Commissioner for Agriculture. And trust me, after the video, let me say a few months after the video, they were supported with 300 bags of fertilizer. When you are trying to equivalent that to what the cash that is more than 14 million naira to a particular community in Badagry. Now, let's now assume that video was not done, that story was not told. Even if they're writing a letter, writing letter and storytelling is different. When I see what the farmers are feeling when they're saying, when they're doing the interview, you feel like, I think these people need help. Letter can only just tell you, even at some point, you can even think the doctor did. Like maybe they just write this. But when you see a video, when you see an interview talking about this is what these farmers are facing, this is what they are doing, and trust me, after that support, those people want to turn me to mini God. I say no. I'm just doing my own no. Because I just feel it is what we need to do. It is what I was saying. Badagry. So many people will say Badagry is a riverine area, is even outside Lagos. And that is as far as what we are going into. Because if you are saying you are talking about success story, you are talking about storytelling, I feel we should focus more on smallholder farmers. Now, why do I say that? Smallholder farmers contribute 70 to 80% of our food production. Now, and they are the one that their story is not outside. Large-scale farmers have the capacity to invite any media house and say, yeah, come and do documentary for me. Even medium scale, they have that capacity. But smallholder farmers, do they have that capacity? And that is where we will come in. Okay, no matter how, we'll not, at some point we'll do some for even free self. So I'm going back to your question that storytelling influence policy making, it influence support, it influence so many things. I am very sure there are some people, sometimes I will just do some video and I will get acknowledgement that this video that you did, can we meet this farmer? We want to support. I've seen a situation where I did a video for a farmer with disability, and some NGOs reach out to me and say, we want to support that farmer. That is the power of storytelling. So it is very important farmers tell their story, and that is why we are here to tell the story more for them.
Speaking of storytelling again, I want to put some things into perspective. It's one thing to tell a story. It's another thing to tell it the right way. So for example, I want to tell a story as a farmer, but I'm not saying it in a way that the people that are hearing me understands that I actually need the help. Or they feel that, this one is doing well for themselves. I think they're doing very well. It's one thing to acknowledge and show that, this is the data. This is what we have been able to do. But how can farmers be able to tell a better story in a better narrative that it will induce the help of the community or even policymakers?
Now, I always tell my farmers that documentation is very important. When you're saying success story, when you're saying storytelling, what makes storytelling in agriculture differs from other world is that there are processes to it. Now, storytelling is not just about you talking about a problem. I can tell a story about a product, and because of the story I tell about that product, you want to buy that product.
Yeah,
so now,
true.
Farmers need to understand that, yes, there are processes to this thing. Now, I want to tell the government that we are facing a challenge about pests. Now, it is not that particular time that we will start telling the story. We will start putting some things together. Start asking questions. It's not compulsory you should be perfect. Now that you are not even involving a third party, you are the farmer that want to tell the story yourself.
Yeah.
It is not compulsory you should be perfect. No one is looking for perfection when it comes to success story for farmers now. So our farmers should learn how to follow processes. Like, okay, this is now like you are a fish farmer now and you want to tell a story. You start a story from the point of putting your fingerlings on juvenile into the fish pond. When they start getting to 1 month, you tell a story around it. When they start, maybe they get to 3 months, when you are feeding them. All these things are what are appealing to investors.
Yeah.
That okay, this is how you feed your fish. Okay, even if you want to sell to people outside the country, when they see the kind of feed you are giving to your fish, that can even say, okay, that means the fish we want to eat, they fed them with a good feed. So storytelling for farmers should be processes. It is not just, when I go to farms, I don't just pick up my phone, pick up my camera and start telling stories. I want to know what is the root of this problem. Where are you coming from? Where are you currently, and where do you want to go to? So if farmers understand that very well, trust me, they'll be able to share their story well.
Beautiful. Should I say that since some of the farmers, because we can't generalize now, some of the farmers are not able to tell their story well, does agriculture need more storytellers as much as they need farmers?
Yes, we do. The thing is, I'm always very happy when this question has been asked, that do we need more storytellers? As we need more farmers, we also need more storytellers. Looking at our population, it keeps increases every time. We keep giving birth, and I think the last time we had the census, we know our population, and now I just want to think of what it's going to be when we do another census. Now that means we have increased, if not even 50%. I'm just joking, but now as our population is increasing, we need more farmers to feed those population. As we need more farmers to feed those population, we need more storytellers. Now, do you know what storytelling is going to do for us when we have that? Let me just digress a little bit to entertainment world. Do you know that it was because of storytelling and all this paparazzi that they do in entertainment world? That is why you see that even a boy of 5 years will want to sing because he knows there is money in it. And also, now in entertainment, you will see people talking about Davido, talking about Olamide, talking about Burna Boy. They are telling their story and they are letting us know what these people are doing. Do we have that in agriculture? Now, who is telling the story of Farmer Samson? Who is telling the story of Farmer Mogaji? Who is telling the story of Akin Alabi? Who is telling the story of Commissioner for Agriculture in Lagos State? When you hear stories and you see that, okay, this is what this person do, I want to be like this person. So it is very, very important. We need more storytellers. When I see that we now have someone again now, Joy, she's sit down story, I'm very happy. We have corporate farmers, I'm very happy. When I see people coming, because the space is very wide. Very, very wide. So answering your question, we need more storytellers.
I'll still route you back because I feel that no storyteller can tell the story better the way farmers will do, which means that there needs to be an intersection between the storytellers and the farmers. Why can't we have equipping for the farmers to be able to tell their story better? Or don't you think that's a good solution?
Now, let me tell you why that will not work.
Okay.
Now, I remember before this conversation, you said someone called you sometimes ago and say you lose some fish.
Yeah, one of my ponds. Yeah.
So at that moment, can you tell the story?
I was so shocked. You needed to see me.
So that is it. You see, that is why, I always tell people that, when they see storytellers or people that do media in agriculture, they see them. When I started, people are just mocking me. Did you understand it? No, but when we now started adding value, then I see that this thing is the. So see,
can I cut you a little?
Okay.
As much as I was shocked and maybe a form of distress, I sat down. I'm not sure I even went to work that day. But if I was asked, I think I would have used all the emotions in me to tell that story. Do you know how much I spent? I had telling all the fishes in the pond. So I think I still opine that we need to equip. Well, you are going to change my opinion here, but I still opine that we need to equip more farmers to be able to tell their story. So please debunk.
So now, if you are saying that, I've seen some farms that they reach out to me and say, Olumide, we need a storyteller.
Okay.
Because they know they cannot do it. Now, because see, what farmers are doing, we are just saying agriculture as should be is just for us to plant now. It is beyond that. So you now adding storytelling to your job might now started making it look cumbersome or making it look as if it's complicated or something. See, if a farm, let me narrow it down to smallholder farmers. Smallholder farmers that are facing a challenge at the moment now, do they have the money to hire a storyteller? Now, large scale farmers can say, okay, we want to hire a storyteller. Did you get it now? But that is where I said we need more storyteller that will volunteer to work at the grassroots level. Now, let me tell you something. When we are pitching for Agriton 2.0, we are trying to tell them that, yes, we are working the farmers at the grassroots level and we want them to subscribe and give us this particular amount. You know what the commissioner said? Olumide, no, we don't know you for this. Don't charge farmers for telling their stories. Let it be your CSR. Now, how do you make money? Make money from the big guys. So anybody coming into the space, if you want to do anything for smallholder farmers, you should know you are doing CSR. But trust me, you'll be celebrated on a bigger stage because, like, commissioner will always make acknowledge to it that Olumide did something for the Louis farmers. So going back to what you said, farmers, they can be trained, equipped, because it will make job easier for the storyteller coming. When I'm asking question about Paolo Kilo Gogo, they'll know what to tell me because they've been trained about storytelling. You cannot look at someone that is not even aware about what to even say at all compared to someone that knows what to say, compared to someone that know that because Olumide will come in the next 2 hours and before he come around, this thing might have gone down. Let's say we are talking about fire outbreak or something. Let me record this particular part. I know the aspect ratio that Olumide will always want to work with. Let me do it in landscape. So when they come, I will just send this thing to him. They can be equipped. I'm not disputing that, but they can't tell their story like people that are trained to tell the story will tell it. Did I convince you? Maybe or maybe not.
Let me stand in between.
Okay, no, it's fine.
Okay, so here comes the conversation of we needing more storytellers and farmers. How can storytelling create an alignment between farmers, agribusinesses, policymakers, stakeholders, storytellers? Because it's not all storytellers that are farmers. I know of a storyteller, Precious the storyteller, and she's not a farmer. But if she's going to work with an agricultural person or a farmer, she needs to be able to tell the story the right way. How can there be an alignment?
Now, that takes me to a question I always ask myself before people will ask me that question. And I think someone asked me the question recently. When I started the brand, I said, what if they ask me that, do I have a farm? Because I called myself Voice of the Farmer.
I almost asked.
And they now say, okay, Olumide, do you have a farm? And like 3-4 years ago, I said I need to go and have a farm. Because, it would be a shame on me when I'm telling your story and I don't feel what you are feeling.
True.
So I decided to go into fish farming. I did fish farming through an empowerment program. At some point, I collaborated with my wife. Trust me, you don't want to hear what happened. Seriously. And I know that farmers are going through a lot. At some point, I get stuck. I could not get feed again to feed the fish. And we need to sell it like that. And seriously, I still pay the visit now. Because it doesn't. So what I'm trying to say is just that there should be an alignment between the storyteller and the farmer. So I'm not saying you should practice all, but at least have a feel of what they're feeling. It's going to be even easier for you to tell their story because now, do you know what storytelling has done to me? If I'm talking to people, I can talk in conferences and people will think this guy is a farmer.
He's a farmer, yes.
But it was storytelling that gave me that. I never had any background in agriculture. My background was in telecommunication, but I'm always proud talking about agriculture because I've been visiting farms, I've tell farmer stories, I read a lot of things, I go to conferences, so I know what they're facing. So, and I know when I want to talk to you, I will tell you this is what farmers are facing, this is what they need. So, anybody that wants to do storytelling, you should also be ready to learn that so that your storytelling will be detailed and you will know, I always tell people that what a metro, people doing metro news, what they will report will be different from what we that are doing agriculture will report. That is it. Because their own is metro, their own is sport, their own is just politics. But we are into agri space, so we know what we are supposed to say at the particular time. So anybody coming into that space, there must be an alignment. Not just farmers alone, agribusiness, the processor, the logistic people. You must align with them in one way or the other. Pick one or two things from what they are doing so that it will help you in telling their story.
You heard that. Storytelling is very, very important, and it also must be in alignment with everything agriculture. Not only the farmers, logistics, markets, so that you can tell the story the right way and attract the right people. And with that, we will be on a short break and we will be right back. Welcome back. And we are still talking about who is telling the farmer's story. I think you should put in the comment section who should tell the farmer's story. If you ask me, I think it's the farmer. Well, I think Olumide thinks the storytellers should do that.
Yes, we should. we should.
That's an amazing conversation. I mean, it's so good to have you on board.
Thank you.
And I really need to ask you this question. What truly is an inclusive agricultural conversation? You know, when we started this podcast, we had conversations around people hosting conferences and having conversations talking about the farmer, but without the farmer. So what truly is an inclusive agricultural conversation?
Yes, thank you very much for that. I think, and I'm very sure that when you're talking about inclusive agricultural conversation is, don't bob my hair or my head behind me. Why? Why are you doing that? Farmers must be involved, and not just farmers. Now, this is where we are getting this wrong. We are involving large-scale farmers alone. I'm not saying they are not farmers, because looking at the export market, looking at the volume of production, we need them. But before you say you want to export, before you say, we that we are in Nigeria, we're not going to eat. Who are the producers of that food? Smallholder farmers. No matter how rough, how anything you can think about them, involve them. And don't just involve them, let them talk. Sorry, let them talk. It is very, very important, because I've seen that situation that, I feel we should just change that narrative about how agri conference look like in our country. It should not just be talk. At some point, it will be politicized. So we should allow our farmers to say what they're feeling. I know we cannot allow all of them to say what they're doing or what they're feeling. Sorry. Now, if it is going to be representative of cooperatives, representative of groups, AFAN, all these things, allow them to talk. They are the one that knows what the... So if we are talking about inclusivity in the conversation, that is what we are leaving behind. Farmers, we just focus on office farmers. I will say it again. Office farmers, small, large-scale farmers, smallholder farmers are not really, really involved. And I will go back to Lagos State again. They are doing something, because they will always carry you. They will carry farmers along and tell them, okay, we are coming to your place. I've attended so many stakeholders engagement that farmers have done. You will even see the commissioner there. The commissioner will be sitting down there talking to the farmers, hearing from them. So I hope every state should also emulate this as well too, because we need to inform farmers. We need to include them in any policy we are making.
I look forward to a conference committee of farmers, policymakers, youths, and smallholder farmers. I mean, whether large scale or smallholder, in the committee of that conference. I look forward to that. Not just policymakers alone. They will be able to even influence even the order of program.
Yes.
I think we should talk about
this.
Yes,
it is very important. It is very important, because so many farmers, they will just get to the event and they will now feel like, are we even needed here as well? Because you call a program agricultural program, and everybody that will talk in that event is just, I don't know.
Yeah, some people can be farmers. We just don't know. I mean, the last agriton I attended, I saw Blossom.
Yes.
And I'm like, is this man a farmer? I mean, I've always known him as an actor. And I had to go check his profile. I'm like, oh my God, he is. It's just that we don't know. So some people can be farmers. We just
I'm not disputing that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying people sitting on that seat are not farmers. But they are falling into the category of large-scale farmers. So, I will always speak for smallholder farmers. Because these are my people that I've been working with closely.
I get you.
So, so we need to involve them. It's very important.
I get you. One last question before we go. If you could change something about the representation of agriculture in Nigeria, just one thing, what would it be?
I said one thing.
Just one thing.
That's
Is that odd?
No, it's not odd seed, because I will reference the commissioner.
Yeah,
there was a time I had a conversation with her, like an interview, and she was saying she referenced, or let me say, she was talking about the entertainment world. Like, anybody seeing entertainment world, we always want to go into it. Dirty December, all these things. Look at how entertainment world looks like. If you can have that in the Arabic space too, how do you think it's going to be?
Beautiful.
We are having beauty pageants in agriculture. We are having.
Please, what would
No, we did one last year. Serious,
Beauty
most beautiful
pageant.
farmer in Lagos.
Love it.
We did one last year, and trust me, the person won a truck.
Love
Like
it.
a truck of, I think the worth of that truck is 13 million naira. It was Farm Junction Darwin that did that.
Yeah,
Farm
yeah.
Junction, yes, Farm Junction was the people that did that event there, and they partnered with Lagos State. So look at it. If we have all these TV reality show, we can have one for farmers too. We have magazines where you see they are talking about billionaires in Nigeria. Can we have that for farmers too? If you want to have newspaper, you want to have magazines. One thing that will come to your head when they want to talk about farmers is you see a torn clothes and old man putting hole. But now, I can categorically say that I'm a farmer. Do I look dirty? So we need to change that narrative and perspective about agriculture. Yes, we have people that, yes, they will still need to do that dirty job. It is normal. It's happened in other sphere too, in other sphere of agriculture, or even tech world as well. There are some people that do those back things at the back end, but notwithstanding too, if they are promoting entertainment world, a dirty space, who is going to go there? So I think I will leave this word to anybody promoting or projecting agriculture, projecting farmers, to make sure that yes, our farmers are being projected well, and it's as a noble profession.
I look forward to telecoms doing adverts, and I'm not only seeing actors as their
seeing
cast,
farmers,
but seeing farmers.
yes. I look forward to that.
Doing
we should have
things like that.
ambassadors in farming too.
Exactly.
Like, yes, as we have in communication company, we have in agriculture too, ambassadors that will be doing every year.
Yes.
I look forward to that.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you so much for this conversation, really. As we wrap up today's conversation, one thing is clear. Agriculture is not just production. It's about perspective. And the stories we choose to tell will ultimately shape the systems we build. When farmers are visible, when their voices are heard, and when their realities are understood, we create space for better policies, smarter investments, and stronger connections between rural producers and the rest of the society. A big thank you to Afeez Olumide.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding us that storytelling is not just communication. It is power, advocacy, and development in action. To everyone listening, I hope this episode challenges you to rethink how you see agriculture and to consider the role you play or you can play in amplifying the voices that feeds us. If this conversation resonates with you, share it with someone in your network. Let's continue to tell the farmer story intentionally and responsibly. I remain Deborah Dairo, and this is the Grow Podcast. Until next time, keep growing and keep giving voices to what matters. Bye.